grasping the thin, almost translucent veil between that of fact and fiction, revealing mysteries of the past, folklore passed down from father to son, unsolved murders, and things that go bump in the night. You've entered Deceptive Reality.
Welcome to the Deceptive Reality Podcast. My name is Nick, and with me, as usually anyway, is the Ardent Bert.
Ardent?
Yeah. Enthusiastic, basically.
Oh, that's me. Listen, hey, no one knows this. I had a clipboard. I was like this, and then we do like different things. I was like, bam!
So that made us laugh. And then we had to wait more.
I think that screwed Nick up at the beginning of this, because usually he says, "Welcome back to another episode of Deceptive Reality." As always, this time he's like, this is the Deceptive Reality Podcast. I'm sorry, Nick. Listen, hey, sometimes I get excitable.
I got to tell you, sometimes in the beginning, just in the very beginning, I get like a little stage fright, and I'm like, "What is this podcast called?"
Well, I get scared every single time I talk about podcasts, because I do this, I do my retraced echoes, and now I got retraced stories. So every time you see me, I pause a lot of times if I'm like, which one am I doing? And as you also know, I have all the different folders for like Deceptive Reality, retrace echoes, retrace stories. Occasionally, I'll think I lost something. I'm like, oh my God, like I just had an entire file. But then I jump into the other folder and I put it in the wrong folder. So I'm like, oh my God. It's crazy.
It's no worse than me spending all that time building the websites and stuff like that. And then I told you the wrong website name.
You did.
That was embarrassing.
Listen, I'm the one that corrected that, Nick.
I know.
Of the two of us, I would assume
every week.
I would assume I would be the one to mess this up. So listen, that was the best.
It's that stage fright.
That's what it is, man. Happens every single time. I am a professional at just going with the flow. Even when I screw up, half the time when I go back to edit, I go, what am I talking about? And then I just go, well, we'll just delete that part out. It's fine.
Well, I mean, even at this level, like at about the 3-minute mark, which we just hit, I lose my stage fright. But I'm not the entertainer that you are, because you've been doing this kind of stuff for years. I'm normally behind the scenes.
2018, Nick, 2018. I started streaming in 2018, but I was creating content in 2017.
Oh. I thought you meant you've been doing it for 28 years or something.
No, goodness, no. What's funny is I actually had there for when I was gaming. This is before I had a gaming channel and stuff. I used to record my content and put it up on YouTube. So I had a YouTube channel, but it was not what I went under at all.
Right.
And I ran into one of those videos not that long ago, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the graphics are god awful. It's so bad. But then I remember I'm old. I'm super old.
Nah. I look at some of the old videos I did before, and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like,
we all do that. Mine was for, I don't know when this game came out. It was a new game for me, but the oldest video I could find was Modern Warfare 1.
Oh.
So whenever that came out, that was when I released that video. And the only reason I put it on that YouTube channel was because it was my first 25-1 kill streak.
Ooh, nice.
And I got what's known as a MOAB, which none of you podcast people out there may know what that is. Some of you may, but
I don't know what that is.
Mother of all bombs. And when you release it, when you get a 25 kill streak, you release it and it's like an atomic bomb and it kills everyone, including you.
Ooh.
But you got to have a 25 in a row kill.
That's something I will never see. I'm glad you told me about that. I am the worst at games, the worst.
No, that is not true. Everyone listen, yeah. Nick's taking you along for a ride. That's not true. He has played games with me and he's a true professional.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm a good shield. I'll protect you, but I'll die shortly thereafter.
If Nick ever plays the killer in a game,
Oh, okay,
savage.
that's different.
Complete savage.
I ain't playing a killer. I am a killer.
Oh, man. For anyone that's obviously out there, listen, we got to do a little business, a little housekeeping, okay? Wherever you're listening to us, hit that thumbs up button, rate us, tell your friends.
Yep, you've been doing a good job. Keep it up.
I forget to do that occasionally. I forget to tell y'all.
No.
So I'm knocking that out first thing here at the beginning.
Yeah, that's usually an ending thing, so we'll mix it up a little.
A lot of channels here lately has been putting it at the beginning. Do you know why?
People listen to the beginning the most.
Yeah, them deadbeats knock off about halfway, Nick.
Stealing content.
Yeah, you're stealing free. Listen, this ain't no free show around here, folks.
Yeah, you got to pay the admission.
Exactly.
Actually,
Exactly.
literally free anyway.
It really is. It really is. Well, this week is a Nick week. I'm kind of excited about these because I have no clue what's going on. I will tell y'all this much. Listen, I hit Nick up yesterday. I kind of want to go back and look at the time frame. It was like 6 something. I'm like, hey, are we doing your topic? Because I always have a topic ready to go if we need to. I can slide it right in, keep moving. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm just trying to shorten it up a little bit. It was like 5 hours later.
Oh,
You got the file to me.
Yeah, like normally I have the file to you the day before or whatever, but it was just too damn long. It was too long. I don't want, like, I do the single episodes usually. Like, it's just one episode. We solve the mystery, win the prize. We're done.
That is true.
This one, I kept cutting it down, and then it didn't make sense. So I add a little more, then I cut it down. And this is the bare bones version. Like, you cannot slim it down any more than this.
And according to the timer, it's 16 minutes and 23 seconds. Now, the difference between mine and Nick's, his doesn't have the sound effects or the music or the intro or the outro. So when I give my number, that's with all those things. So his, in my world, would probably be about 18 and a half minutes.
Oh, I didn't account for that.
Because there's about 2 minutes of fluff in mine and I do that to make it easier for when I edit, because literally I just drop it in, I splice it, and I put it in its spots, and I keep moving. So,
right.
Yeah, this is going to be a banger. Listen, I'm excited about this. Woo.
I'll be absolutely shocked if you don't know about this already. In fact, I don't think there's anyone who doesn't know about this. And it's from pretty much my own backyard.
I'll be honest, Nick, I don't know a lot about Nova Scotia. I knew the one thing I talked to you, I think it was off podcast last week, trying to figure out if you knew about one case. That's the only case I know of. That's not true.
And I think it was on the other side of the country, we determined.
It was. Now, there's one out of Nova Scotia that I've got pretty much done. Well, Nova Scotia is one of the locations that this thing occurs, but not just Nova Scotia.
Oh, multiple locations.
Yes.
Is it to do with a boat?
No.
Oh, okay. I have no idea then.
Is there pirate ships?
I know of a very famous one that has to do with a boat in Nova Scotia, but I guess it's not that.
Yeah, no, definitely not boats. I mean, I guess you could be on a boat when it occurs, but no, no boats that I know of.
I'm not going to be able to guess. There's no way.
Yeah, there's no way. Sweet. So, well, what's this one about, Nick? Are you going to tell us?
I'm not going to tell you a darn thing.
Dang it.
I'm going to let the narration do it.
Can we jump in? I'm curious. I want to know, Nick.
Yeah, let's give it a whirl.
Welcome to Nova Scotia, Canada, one of the oldest settled regions in Canada where you are never more than 60 kilometers from the ocean. The province is often shrouded in the mist of the Atlantic. hiding centuries of mysteries and strange occurrences. War, hidden treasures, deals with the devil, pirates, monsters, and ghostly encounters have woven themselves deeply into the reality of this place. Join us as we travel back to 1795 when a teenager named Daniel McGinnis made a discovery that would echo throughout the centuries and claim the lives of 6 people so far. It was a hot summer night, and Daniel McGinnis was out enjoying the night air. Looking towards the coast, he could see one of the nearly 35 uninhabited islands that dot the shores of Nova Scotia. He'd seen the island all his life, and really nothing was special about it, except tonight he could see a number of lights that he presumed to be lanterns moving back and forth on the eastern end of the island. The next day, Daniel got his friends John Smith and Anthony Vaughn together to head over to the island to see if they could figure out what the night visitors were up to. Hiking through the then densely forested island, they eventually came upon a clearing where Daniel estimated that he'd seen the lights the night before. Oddly, there was no evidence at all of the visitors from the night before. Something definitely was unusual. There was a large sunken part of the ground evidencing a hole was dug there. In a large oak tree, a set of worn tackle hung above the hole. These pulleys were ancient even in 1795, but were clearly used to lower something heavy into the covered hole. With thoughts of pirates and buried treasure once common upon these coasts, the young men returned with shovels and began to dig. Imagine their excitement as they reached about a meter down and hit a layer of flagstones that were clearly placed by human hands. Pulling up the flagstones, they continued down. Excitement once again struck at 3 meters when they hit a layer of oak planks. They tore up the planks and continued. Every 3 meters there was a layer of these same planks. Something clearly was buried here, and it was big. They got down to a little over 9 meters that day. Unfortunately, when they returned the next day to continue, the hole had completely filled in with salt water, even though they were quite far from the shore. Eventually, this collapsed their digging, and the hole returned almost to the way they had found it. The boys tried again the following year with the same results. While they had kept their activities a secret to this point, they realized there was no way they could retrieve this treasure without help. Rumors soon spread around the world, creating a domino effect that would lead to death, misery, and financial ruin that would become known as Oak Island Mystery.
It's a doggone Oak Island, Nick.
You know it. You do know it.
Well, we just talked about it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
We talked about it?
Yeah, and on this podcast.
What?
Yes.
I don't remember that.
Yes, because we talked about the TV show, right? Am I thinking of the same thing?
Yes, there is a TV show about it. That's
Remember, we talked about Oak Island, and you said, I have been there, but I can't say if I've been on the island.
I do remember that, and I still can't say.
Oh my God,
I still
Nick.
Can't talk about that.
Yes, I know about it. Remember, I used to complain that I watched the TV show for 3 to 5 seasons, whatever it was. They never friggin' found nothing.
Well, I don't get into anything on the TV series with this, but we're going to look at the facts of the story. So have you watched all of it?
No, I stopped at like season 3 or what's it on now? Season 17, 18? What are we at now?
11. They're on season 11.
God. I stopped
Everyone
at like
around here
3
is
or 4.
hooked on it.
Jess and I used to watch this show, and she and I would watch it religiously. There was, I forget what the brothers' names are, but as we was watching it, she's like, every year we watch this and they never find anything but like a coin or a nail. And I'm like, I know. I'm like, they ain't never going to find anything. So we stopped watching it.
Well, that's kind of a testament, because people always said, oh, with modern technology, we could solve this easily. They've found less than has been found in the past. Like, they're not, technology isn't the issue here. There's something else going on here preventing this, because there's some pretty amazing discoveries that they found.
I know very little about this. I know enough to get myself in trouble. So, like, I didn't know anything until the TV show came out. And then once the TV show came out, obviously I learned a lot of different things, and they told a little bit of background, a little bit of story, some hypothesis. And you and I've talked about it a few times on and off, not too in depth, but I always thought it was supposed to be the what are they called? Freemasons.
Or the Templars or the Freemasons?
The Templars, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a number of theories which we're going to get into a little bit more later. One that we're not getting into, and I'll just mention it now, is people are saying the lost plays of Shakespeare and all this kind of jazz. Have you ever heard anything about that?
How does that even play into this? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't think so either, but people say, oh, Shakespeare wasn't the one that wrote all those plays. It was this other guy.
Seems legit already. Got me sold already.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah. This is like a total Jersey Devil kind of theory. It doesn't hold up.
Can I say I was super excited though? Because when the narration was going on and it talked about seeing these lights, I was like, oh my God, I wore a UFO shirt too.
Oh, yeah, I see. And it was not a UFO. Very stylish.
And then it talked about the water being gone. I'm like, this is a UFO story, just like them crop circles. It was missing water. And then you killed it. Then it said pirates. And I'm like, at the beginning of this thing, we talked about pirates because when you said, did it have anything to do about a boat? I'm like, Nick's talking about pirates. And then this,
I know when you said that, I was like, he's on to me.
I was like, man, this is so good already.
Dude, you have no idea. Like, there's so much to this story. Things have been going on constantly for like hundreds of years, but people are too focused on the wrong thing. Like, it's all about this treasure is what people are thinking. You know, we're going to get rich or something like that. What I want you to keep in mind as we're going through this is everything except the treasure. How the heck did all of this happen? Like, there is so much going on here that has very little to do with the treasure itself. That's the real deal with this island, the mystery behind it.
You know what? And that's what it was when we did our Halloween episode. I said that guy's story was similar to Oak Island.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it was the treasure on the Tuscan Islands.
Because he went to an island trying to find a treasure also. Because this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be completely wrong, or I may have made this all up in my head. Who knows? This is supposed to be 100% just about buried treasure that's like, and you got to remember, there's a lot of us here that's Americans. I don't know what 1 meter is.
Okay. So there's at a certain point it's going to switch to feet. Do you do feet in America? Yes. Or okay, yes. A lot of it's going to be in feet.
Yes.
I sort of switched after. I started off doing like this, like meters / feet. And then I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. People can look it up. And then later on, I'm like, you know what? A lot of our viewership is in America. We're going to switch to feet now.
We're dumb Americans, man. We need our feet.
No, it's just what you're used to. Like, I can't tell you off the top of my head what a meter is in feet. Maybe we should look it up though.
Yeah, I am super curious because and I think even when watching Oak Island, I think they refer to a lot of that in meters also. And that's why I was like, these doggone crazy Canadians. So for every 1 foot,
no, go ahead.
For every 1 foot, it's 0.305 meters.
Okay, so we'll say every time you hear meter, think 3 feet and change.
3 foot. Yeah. Roughly, it'd be like 3 foot. I guess if I just go meters to feet. Hold on. It'd be like 3 foot.
In Canada, the average person's male height is like 2 meters, if that helps.
See, I like our version better. I'm 6 foot.
Yeah.
3 feet, 3 inches.
Oddly enough, when we talk about height, a person's height in Canada, we use feet and inches as well. I know we've not been able to let go of our American ways entirely.
Man, Nick, it's hard to get away from it. Listen,
I just found out you're taller than me.
How tall are you?
I'm only 5'11".
No, we're roughly the same. With Spike, I'm like 6'1" with a Spike, Nick.
Oh no, I'm 5'11". Well, I suppose I could make spikes that were really tall.
Yeah, you'd be like 6'5", Nick.
So there's a couple things I want to clarify because of the narration. One of them is our robot that does our speaking for us.
Don.
Yeah, Don has never heard another human being's name in his entire life. It's not whatever he said. It's McGinnis.
McGinnis.
I think he was saying Irish name or something like that.
Man,
and that's with McGinnis. Me trying to teach him.
Is that Irish? McGinnis sounds like a strong Irish name.
Either Irish or Scottish.
That could be too.
We've got a lot of Scottish influence because Nova Scotia means New Scotland anyway. If you weren't aware of that.
Was not aware, Nick.
Yeah. In fact, Nova Scotia is one of only 2 places where Gaelic is still spoken. And the other one, I believe, is either Scotland. Yeah, I think it's Scotland. That's like the language of the Celts.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm back on board. Listen, I got off the boat for a minute. I got back on. It's fine.
It sounds weird. It's
very weird.
The other thing is Dawn also isn't great at doing numbers. So it was 3,500 islands. So 3,500 islands are on our coast.
You got a few islands, Nick.
Yeah, we got a few islands. So the other thing that I thought might interest you is this all was discovered. No one thought anything about Oak Island at all until this young fellow saw ghostly lights on the island heading back and forth from this little clearing that they went to the next day. So that somehow set things off. And there's also some supernatural elements to this sometimes as well, which might be something you'd be interested in. Like this is what, because no one ever thought anything of there being a treasure there. There was no rumors of a treasure. There was no, old stories. There wasn't any old books or maps, anything like that. Those lights were the only thing that brought about like 200 years of nonstop searching on this island.
Well, it's funny because when we was listening to the narration, obviously I know a little bit. Mm-hmm. At first I thought we was talking ghosts because some of the ghost stories we talk about, there's orbs over the water. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they're referred to as lanterns. They believe they're lanterns. So I'm like, oh, it's a ghost story. Yeah. And then I heard...
Well, that's what he assumed it was.
Which is weird because when I think of ghosts, I don't ever think of the water, but you'd be surprised how many stories about ghosts always, like there's a Stuckey Bridge. Stuckey Bridge, the whole reason people goes to Stuckey, forget what state that's in, I'm sorry, whatever state you're in. But Stuckey's Bridge, I did an entire podcast on it, hated it and threw it away. But they see lanterns in the water. That's one of the key things. There's another podcast I did where they see lanterns on the water. Who would think the ghosts would be out with lanterns out in the water?
Oh, I don't know. These ones were not really so much on the water. He could see him weaving through the trees on the island from his home on the shore. And they were all sort of going towards a certain point. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you caught this in the narration or not, but when no one really goes on most of these islands at the time anyway. Now this place is like an industrial site. It's not very pretty at all. And you can see that in pictures later on and probably from the show. But it used to be full of trees, grassy areas, oak trees, which are not native here, by the way. Something to keep in mind.
Some doggone Freemasons. Or doggone, whatever they are.
Templars.
Knights Templars. I'm going to write that down because I'm going to forget that. I'm probably going to use that reference like 9 more times.
Heck yeah, use it. I like that theory, the Templar one, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. But see, so he saw all these lights, like he thought it was people walking around with lanterns, as would have been the fashion at the time. But then when they go the next day to investigate the area, there's no grass knocked down. There's no sign of disturbance whatsoever. It's like they were the first ones that went through there. So he later presumed it was sort of like a ghostly presence around the island.
Well, I went from ghost to UFO. And then when it said pirate boat, I'm like, it's a pirate story. And then as I was digging, I'm like, man, that kind of sounds like Oak Island a little bit. And I'm like, this one does take place in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
But Nick said I don't know about it, and we've talked about it like 3 times. So I'm sitting there going, man, what could this be?
Nick has brain damage.
Like we just talked about this like 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was a bit longer because if you recall,
yeah, we did record it a while.
We
yeah,
do everything out of order. So
yeah,
that's the only way I can defend myself on this.
Yeah, we was a little bit ahead on that.
But the other thing is, do you know why? So there's a whole bunch of ghostly lore around pirates and buried treasure. Have you ever heard of any of the old legends of this stuff?
You mean as far as Oak Island or just in general?
Just in general.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one of the things is that when they buried a treasure, they killed one of the crew and left them to guard it.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, that was something that supposedly happened quite frequently. And that's
did they
one
draw
of the
straws?
I think they knew before they got out there, but there was like the guy in the red shirt, like Star Trek, had no idea.
Oh, I was going to say, I wouldn't go there. Be like, nope.
Yeah. Well, they'd be like,
not today.
Don't worry, Bert. It's Steve. It's not you, Bert. It's Steve. Don't tell Steve. It's definitely not
on
you.
my watch. Not on my watch. Nope.
So
Bert's not falling for it.
Well, that's what Pirate Bert said too.
Well,
because he thought it was Steve.
On topic, but off topic. Guess what I watched this weekend?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
You'll never guess. Yeah, I did. Wow, you're so good at this game, Nick. I watched the third one.
Oh, there you go.
And in that one, it was the Davy Jones's lock. Down in Davy Jones' locker. I'm like, man,
I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one too. All right, back on topic. Sorry, Nick. That just
that's all
pirates.
Right. I mean,
it just got my
pirates,
attention.
it's on topic.
It's on topic. Listen.
So this is what people theorize why we see the ghostly lights occasionally on Oak Island, because it's the Guardians pirates that they left there. Yeah,
and the Knight Templar ghost pirates.
I'm in Camp Pirate, by the way.
How do you know Knight Templars didn't have pirates, Nick?
I don't know. I didn't
undercover
hear a lot of them going around on boats, but maybe they did. I don't know.
Maybe they did. Maybe they did, Nick. We don't know.
Maybe they did.
This is deceptive reality. Your reality's been deceived.
I have been deceived by reality, in fact. But there's others as well. Another one is, and I think this one might be a Nova Scotia pirate hunting thing. And that is when you're digging for a treasure, if you speak to the other people helping you before daylight, like in the night, if you speak with the other people helping you, at daylight, the chest will sink further down and you won't be able to get it.
That's okay.
It's a superstition thing.
That is a big time. It's like walking underneath a ladder, Nick. That's crazy talk.
Yeah. Well, you know
that's
how the old-timey folks were. They couldn't explain things.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Everything was owls and stuff. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. Owls push it down further into the ground.
Some owls, man.
Yeah, that's right. So
the thing I did find interesting in the TV show, though,
Yeah.
That's my only point of reference. It's the only thing. I got annoyed with that series and just stopped watching it, as I said. So I'm sure it's advanced way past what I'm about to say. But the last season that I watched it, and this will tell you when I stopped watching it, they were just for the first time bringing cranes in.
Right.
And the cranes were sinking and they was having a tough time getting it to. There's like 2 or 3 different sites that they're trying to dig.
Right.
And this crane got stuck trying to get to one of the places. And if I remember correctly, they couldn't knock down trees or something in an area because of something government, or what was it? There was something, they couldn't cut down trees in a certain area to bring the crane through.
Yeah, it was probably like a Wetland Protection Act or something like that. It's hard to say, but they've decimated that island. Like, it used to be real pretty back in the day, but it looks like a war zone now.
Well, now Trudeau's like, well, you know, we've already knocked down a couple trees. we need that doggone money.
Well, it's interesting about knocking down trees, though, because there's a prophecy about when the treasure will be found. And that's when the last oak tree is gone and 7 men have died, the treasure will be found.
Yeah, but when I stopped watching, there was already like 3 people that died. I thought for sure I was going to watch someone die in the last season I watched, because they had this dude they put down in this bucket in a diver suit. I'm like, this dude is dead.
Right.
He's dead. There's no coming back from this, because there's no way they're going to get him. But he didn't die. Listen, I would watch like this because I'm like, he's going to die in this bucket. Y'all can't see that, but I put my hands over my eyes because I didn't want to see it. It's gruesome.
If you were a superstitious person, you don't want to be digging on that island right now.
There ain't no way. 7 people's going to die. And I think 3 people when I don't know if anyone's watched since. I think it was like 3 people already died.
Actually, it's worse than that. We're on 6 now.
Oh my God.
See? You see what I mean? You don't want to be that guy.
Has people died during the show? Because I feel like it wasn't that close when I started watching it.
No, this is from like different occurrences, like noxious gas and explosions from previous sessions. But if they're going to find it on this show, supposedly one person will have to die and the last tree will have to fall. There's 1 oak tree left and 1 person to go.
No wonder they keep doing seasons, Nick. They're like, I'd
go knock down that tree right off the bat. I just go knock it right off.
One of them brothers going to knock off one of the people too.
Yeah. So some of them have conflicting personalities, so you never know.
I remember that at one of the episodes I watched, they was talking to somebody who was with one of the people that died before they died. And the person, they did not look good in the episode. But anyway, they was talking about how they were digging in a specific area and the water had filled that area back in. It was like there was a booby trap, which I'm assuming we're going to come to, but they've got booby traps on this island. And it's a cool story, a super cool story. For sure.
When you hear the lengths to which this treasure is protected, you're going to lose interest in the treasure probably.
It's like Jenga. Like
there's layer. It's like an onion. There's layers upon layers of what's going on here.
It's the original escape room, Nick.
Man, it sure is. But like genius level 1. Like
it's crazy.
Hundreds of years have gone by, millions of dollars, all the technology you can throw at it, and we just can't get past these like ancient traps. Like, we know what we're dealing with and we can't deal with it, even today. It just makes you wonder, like, how many other things we can't solve.
Well, it makes me wonder who did it. Because good night. We're talking about when this occurred, however long ago. I don't know. Did they say when it occurred?
They said when this guy found it.
Which was what?
It was like, what was it, 1759, 49?
So these are just random people that was out here doing however far down this is. 9,000 meters, as I think what the final story said, right?
Oh, no, that's way too deep. But
Oh, it's way deeper than that.
No, that's way too deep. Like that's
I was
almost,
like, good night. I'm like 27,000
no.
feet, Nick. What are you talking about?
No, they only got 9 meters down, the boys. But this is just a bunch of kids with shovels.
9.
That's quite far. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So
9. Yeah, no doubt.
Was that 21 feet?
Yep.
No, 27 feet. Like, I'd find that difficult to do.
Well, yeah. Well, 20. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Whatever 9 meters is, and every 3 feet, every 3 meters, like mathematical precision, there's planks, oak planks, every 3 meters.
Well, they was drilling into the ground in the show, and in the soil they'd find planks of wood.
Yep, and that's what it is, and that just like clockwork, you can say, oh, here's another 3 meters. We're going to find another one. No variance of depth or anything. This was planned out.
Who would have thought an owl would have been that sophisticated in the 1700s?
These owls are beyond anything. But the other thing to remember is all this happened and all trace of it was long gone before people were even living in Nova Scotia, other than the natives. But there's no native stories about it either. This would have been a grand undertaking with like people coming and going all the time. Even the natives don't mention it.
Yeah, that's crazy. And before we dig into this thing further, Nick, I got to ask a question. You don't have to answer it.
Okay.
Do you believe, or do you know, if there is a treasure at the bottom of this, wherever it's at? Do you think it is, or are we covering that somewhere else?
I think there is, and there's some evidence to prove there is. However, once we get a little further, I'm going to tell you my theory about this.
Oh, it's a Nick theory.
And it's a little, other people have thought this as well before, but I didn't know about that. I come up with this on my own. So I want to tell you about that a little later.
Ooh,
but we need to know a little bit more about what's going on here.
Let's dig, Nick. I wants to know.
Yeah, let's head into the next section.
John Smith, convinced that a great treasure is just out of their reach, saves up as much money as he can. He buys Lot 18 on the island, which is the location of the original hole. He later builds a house and buys Lots 15, 16, 17, 19, and 20, which he will live in on the island until his death in 1857. The 3 original friends catch the interest of Simeon Lins of Truro, Nova Scotia. Lins then forms a company called the Onslow Syndicate, appointing Colonel Robert Archibald Director of Operations. Sheriff Thomas Harris of Pictou and Captain David Archibald are amongst notably large investors, along with about 30 other wealthy men from the United States and Canada. Finally, with enough investment, the Onslow Syndicate has state-of-the-art equipment to begin a large operation in 1804. The excitement at the camp is palpable as the digging begins, and the same findings as the boys had years earlier is uncovered. It wasn't just a story. 1 meter down they hit flagstones that extend out further than anyone could have expected. Every 3 meters they once again find oak planks just as described. As they pass the 9-meter mark, the boys were able to reach. They start to find more fantastic discoveries they would not have imagined. First is a layer of charcoal, evidence they believe of some kind of unknown ventilation furnace. Just like clockwork, they continue to find oak planks every 3 meters. Extending the sides of the hole, they cannot locate where the edge of the plank layers might stop. Whatever happened here was an inconceivably large undertaking. How could something of this scale, which would require so many laborers, be accomplished unseen? How old is this? The strange and massive discoveries only continue. At 40 feet, a lot of putty is encountered, likely used for sealing an air vent or to plug water leaks. At 50 feet, beach stones are encountered. At 60 feet, an incredible amount of coconut fiber layer is found. Coconuts are not found for thousands of miles from this island. The most exciting discovery to this point was yet to come. At 100 feet or 30 meters, a stone slab was found. When the slab was removed and turned over, it was discovered that it was etched on the bottom with a mysterious coded message. A university professor soon after decoded the message to read, 40 feet below 2 million pounds lie buried. As the sun set, the crew went home to dream of the treasure and their futures. Those dreams were dashed as they returned to the shaft the next morning to find it completely filled with salt water, just as had happened in years past. They quickly brought in pump after pump, burning through each without making a dent in the water level. It seemed endless. 2 other holes were dug nearby with horizontal holes drilled into the main shaft in an attempt to drain it. The result, all holes filled with salt water, something that should not be possible so far from the shore. The Onslow Syndicate ran out of money in late 1805, bringing ruin to their investors. Little did they know they were the lucky ones.
So, a lot of stuff happening here. So, actually, let me get your thoughts first, and then I'll recap some of the important features.
This one, Nick, is hard to fathom from this happened in the 1700s. Like, I feel like we couldn't do that today if we wanted to.
Right. I agree completely, and I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
Because I mean, I put this in the same category as I do pyramids. It's like,
I thought you would say that, yeah.
Because we can see them and we go, those are cool, but we couldn't replicate that today.
Right. And people have theories about how it's done. I don't think anyone's been able to put forth a good theory on how this was actually accomplished.
Well, yeah, it's the part that I think, and again, I saw the show a little bit. So when I was at the show, they talked about some of this stuff. Okay. So it was not uncommon for them to talk about the water refilling areas and stuff like that. But I always thought to myself, what they get, for anyone that hasn't seen, at least go back and watch like season 1, season 2, season 3. The graphics that they have kind of indicates what they think is happening, but they never really knew. In fact, I think one of the seasons I watched, they were trying to dam a section of it off. But it was still refilling with water, even damming it off.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that a little later. That's been tried a number of times, actually.
Oh, wow.
But here's something for you to consider. And we talked about this in the first segment a little bit, but the manpower this must have took.
Oh, massive.
And this must have been so far back that no one was living along the shore. Like all the homes around here, like there was a lot on the shore. They were a bit more inland back in those days, but they were always at the shore because our main industries have always been fishing. People would go to the shore to get kelp to insulate their houses. Like, people are always down there. If there were hundreds of people in great big ships there for years at a time, people would have noticed. So this is far into the mists of the past, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it would almost have to be. I don't see a way around. There's no way. I'm curious how many people died putting this thing together, first off.
Right.
And I wonder if they've found bodies down there of people that could have constructed it. And I'm sure we'll cover that if there is, but it's very
I would expect there to
interesting.
be a lot. Right?
I would assume.
But they are quite advanced. Like, there's some stuff going on, like you said, that we couldn't do today.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, think about it. The thing is, it's booby traps underground. I mean, these are not simplistic in any facet. These are like Indiana Jones
Oh, that's such a
kind
good
of booby traps,
comparison.
because that's
Yeah,
what it's like.
exactly.
It's what it
Well,
reminds me of anyway.
I'll give you a little spoiler that will, since we're talking about it now, these are filling up with salt water, right?
Right. Yeah.
They're 580 feet from the ocean.
Oh,
That should
I didn't know that.
not be filling up with salt water. That should be filling up at best with fresh water.
Huh?
So salt water shouldn't be traveling that far from the coast into these tunnels, 540 feet.
I'm piecing that together in my head. I'm sorry. Hold on.
No, that's
So
okay.
we're dealing 580 feet. An island would be up. That's what causes it to be out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that does make sense. It shouldn't be salt water.
It shouldn't be unless there's additional things unusual about this island.
How would they do that?
Well,
They would have had to have dug a path from the areas into the ocean.
yeah, this construction just gets bigger and bigger.
But how could they do that without not dying? That's 580 feet. So if you're going
Mhm.
580 feet, there's no way. That doesn't make any sense because it's going to collapse as soon as you open up
Right.
a pathway.
Right.
And the amount of pressure alone, when you have a cavity,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't make any sense. None of that
Doesn't,
makes
does it?
sense.
Doesn't make any sense at all.
I never even pieced that together until we just started talking about that.
Yeah, that seems to me even theoretically impossible.
Yeah, big time. It doesn't make any sense.
But here's some other things that you might have missed. They were digging the shaft down, but they're like,
Mhm.
okay, every time we dig, we're hitting these layers of oak planks and these layers of rock. How far do they go from the sides of the money pit? So they start digging it wider and wider and wider. And the planks are there. They're not making an edge to any of this. The stones, they're not finding the end of the stones. None of this.
Oh, you know what? I think in the show when they was doing those drilling, whatever that's called, they had a
Mhm.
specific name for it. But anyway, I believe they drilled as far as they could before they wasn't allowed in a specific area. Like there's a
Mhm.
specific area they was not allowed to drill in. I remember that.
Yeah.
I can't remember if that was a government thing or if they didn't own that part of the land or something.
It
There was
could
some
be that
reason.
some of it's crown land as well, which you can't do anything on.
Oh, that could be.
And that's like the king's own land, or used to be the queen at that time, but the king's own land.
They gone. They gone. We need to
Right.
move on from that. Canada, listen. Trudeau, listen. Do away. Go away. Let the Oak
So-
Island boys have it.
So you said they were drilling like in other locations as well.
Yes.
Did
I remember
did
that.
they find a location that didn't have planks?
When I watched it, they had just started drilling. And up into the season that I watched, every place had the oak planks.
Right. So they're extending quite far from the main hole.
Yeah, they probably did. When they had just started it in the last season
Right.
I watched. Whatever season that
we've
was,
got
3,
a little
4,
more
5.
information coming on that too. Like this is just becoming more massive the more we look at it. But another thing to consider, and you've probably thought about this, is wherever the plank extends to, this layer of coconut fiber also extends to. This is shiploads of coconut fiber alone to
I
accomplish
didn't think of that
this.
until you just said that. I didn't even think of that.
So the nearest native place to get coconut fiber is thousands of miles away, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, that's weird.
So that's
That doesn't make
boatloads
any
and
sense.
boatloads of that.
That's
And the
why
best
would
part
that
of this
be?
mystery so far is this is all verifiable, scientifically verifiable. You can go there and see this or find this.
Well, I know they found a lot of stuff in the hole. I know that. And when I started drilling, they did run into the oak, coconut fiber,
Charcoal.
and charcoal. There was something else they ran into. There was like one more thing. And they said,
Well,
why would that be here?
At this stage, there was also flagstones or like flat stones laid out, and also
I
beach
think that
rocks
is one
way
thing.
down. But
Yeah,
there's
this
more.
was a flagstone thing.
There's more things down there. But even just this, and they've only gotten down a small ways compared to how far they're going to go. Let's talk about the stone with the inscription on the bottom of it. Can you imagine, we'll say 300, 400 years ago, what a strange concept 1 million would be, or 3 million would be?
Huge numbers. That's huge
Like,
numbers.
That's big today.
When did they find that? Is
that was when the syndicate was, this is the first company, was the Onslow Syndicate, and they're the ones that discovered that.
Gotcha.
Now, what's not going to be in this narration, because I couldn't fit it in, is they brought that stone up, and you recall John Smith built a house on the island.
Yeah.
They had that stone, and just hundreds and thousands of people saw it. He put it as part of his fireplace in his house, in fact. But that was somehow stolen from his fireplace. I think it was 40 years after he had it. But in those 40 years, so many people saw this. And I don't know if you've got the pictures open, but it was in a weird runic language, or a code, I would say. I don't know if it was a language.
You know what? I remember, and I don't know if this was on the TV show or if I watched something else on it. They had found a stone in the States that had a same symbol as what was, it was, and they said that this had to have been from the same thing as Oak Island because it had some type of reference.
Do you remember where they found it?
It was in a creek. It was in a creek bank.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So this makes me think more pirates than even before.
Yeah, it was in a creek bank, and the guy that found it was here in the States somewhere. I want to say it's like Virginia.
Oh, okay.
It was in one of the states, and a guy had found a rock, and his dad, I think it was his dad that found it, and he gave it to his son. And it's been in the family for years. And it was something to do with Oak Island, and they had a person look at it, and they said, this has to be from the same kind of whatever it was.
I think it would be easy to tell because it was deciphered real quickly.
Yeah.
So they would have known.
Yeah, they said that they definitely thought it was from there.
Yeah. So, and that later on we'll find that stone really wasn't kidding. Something at about that height is there. And I don't want to get too far into that. But yeah, that's stone.
I see the stone now.
Yeah. So that was face down for whatever reason. Because you'd think if you were putting it in there, you'd set it face up for whoever's digging, right?
Not if you don't want them to know. You have to think when they created all this, they probably assumed that Joe Schmo wouldn't find this.
Right. because this is still pretty deep. Like, you're
Right.
not going to get this with just a couple of guys and a shovel.
Like this gives me the impression of pirates. And the only reason why I say that is because if you're a pirate, regardless of how well you hit something, you're not going to ever give a hint.
Right.
It'd be like remember those rocks that you put in front of your house that had a cutout you'd put your key in?
People still use
Like you
those, by
may
the way.
have one. Yeah. So it's like you may have one, but you're never going to tell anyone. You're never going to make it obvious.
Right. But I'll tell you a good thing about this stone is if you had hid a treasure there and you had some doubt about whether you were digging in the right place, if you get to 90 feet and you don't find that stone, you know that you're in the
Right.
wrong place too.
Correct.
So that's sort of my theory on that kind of thing. Although why they would have to write that on the bottom,
I think
don't
it's
know.
a pride thing. That's more of a
It could
pride thing.
be. It could
Like
be.
if you had something, you're going to be very boastful of it if you're the one that did it. Right? Like every serial killer has a calling card.
Right.
They may be the only one that knows what that calling card means, but they've got one.
Yeah, that could very well be. It's like the wet bandits from Home Alone.
Exactly. It's Marv.
Wait,
Marv
it's
made
Marv.
this rock.
He floods
Marv
this
the
tunnel.
owl.
Right, Marv the owl.
We need a t-shirt that says Marv the owl, and it's got a map to the Oak Island.
If they ever do a cartoon of our adventures, the bad guy's like this owl in a trench coat called Marv.
That would be
Thwarting
perfect.
us at every turn.
The wet bandits.
Yeah. So they found all this coconut fiber and stuff. This extends out however far, and they dig another shaft and they say, well, we're going to use this shaft to try and drain the other one. No. Whatever's been set up here to flood the main shaft is flooding the shafts off to the side as well. It's not just this one hole that's protected.
Yeah, this one's quote unquote deep. This one is a deep one.
Oh, yeah. Yep. This, like you said, how would we even do this today? And how would you retrieve it yourself?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think that they ever intended for anyone to retrieve it. That was, this was a. Here's the thing. I think that they've screwed it up so bad at this point. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't retrieve it.
You know, you are a brilliant man because you have figured something out that a lot of people don't talk about that we're going to cover very shortly. That leads me to think you're correct. I call it stage 2. All this war. I call it
multiple
stage
stages.
2. Well, stage
if you
1
think about it,
was just the flooding. But stage 2 is a whole nother ball game.
Well, that's the thing. Like if you think about anything that's ever been booby trapped, when you booby trap it, generally you can never get it back.
Yeah. Isn't it like something called like a hangman switch or something like that? Or maybe
exactly
I'm
what it's called.
mistaking that.
No, that's correct. That's exactly what it's called. It's a hangman's switch. Yep. Exactly what it's called.
So it's just wild. But it's not like, I'm not even concerned with the treasure. I've known I've seen this a number of times. I'm like, how far in the past was this done? That they could have ships coming in and out, people working nonstop, all of this, and no one saw anything. The Mi'kmaq natives, they have a lot of oral traditions that never mention a darn thing about this. Like, and they've been here since time immemorial, as far as we know. And there's just no legends about it.
What if, Nick, instead of digging down to put this stuff there, if they dug up to get out?
Like, you mean they dug under and then dug up?
Yeah.
That's an interesting theory.
And they
That I
built
don't
their stuff
think
as
I've
they went
heard.
up. Because think about it, it'd be easier to dig up and place your stuff than digging down and placing your stuff.
That would be. I think you'd still hit the problem of how far out it extends, but that's an interesting theory that could be just as plausible when we look at some of the other features of this island going on.
Because think about how hard it would be to be exactly X amount of feet every single time. That seems like that'd be very
Right.
hard to do if you were trying to build back up what you dug out.
Right. That is
That
true.
would be very hard to do.
Yeah, and
With
very
precision,
time-consuming,
anyway.
too.
Oh, for sure.
Everything about this, the stuff that we've already heard about and the stuff we're gonna hear about, there's this kind of precision to it that, it's that kind of precision that in other countries and stuff like the pyramids and the different areas in deserts and stuff where, rocks are cut to such precision you can't fit a piece of paper in between them and stuff. Like
I
the
think I
ancient
figured this out.
world. Aliens? You gonna say aliens?
Nope.
No?
That's ridiculous, Nick. That makes
Oh,
no
okay.
sense.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Reptile people that's underground.
Oh, the center of the earth or the hollow earth reptile people?
Yep.
You know what's
And I
funny
think
about that?
what?
When I'm at work and the guy who does the same job as me isn't making sense, I say,
Mhm.
"You darn flat earth, hollow earth reptile man, what are you doing?" He cracks
Seems
up just
legit.
like
Listen, think about it though. Think about it. Like I say, they're digging up.
that. Mm-hmm.
They dug little paths to the ocean, and they're underground. Listen, they're reptile people. They can breathe underneath water. This all makes sense now. I've pieced this all
Wait.
together.
They can breathe underneath salt water or fresh water or both.
Both, Nick. They're reptiles. They're reptilian.
Yeah, but I don't think reptiles can do that.
What are you talking about?
Can they?
Crocodiles?
They can't breathe underwater though. They can hold.
They have to
breath.
come back up eventually,
Yeah.
but they're underneath
I
there
don't
for
know.
a long time.
Yeah, I suppose. I'm gonna put that on the maybe pile.
Perfect.
Put that on
That's
the
all I
maybe
asked for.
pile.
That's all I ask for.
But yeah, so what I was saying is like in antiquity, there was this huge amount of precision that we seem to not really have a handle on how they could do that kind of stuff. Have you ever noticed that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no way we could do any of this. At this point, there's no way.
Do you know
Not
it
by
was only
today's standards.
this year that we finally figured out how the Romans and the Greeks made their concrete so strong?
I did not know we just figured that out.
And it was so simple. They mix their concrete with salt water.
Oh, is that what they do?
That's all it is.
I know
Yeah.
somebody mixes their they don't call it concrete, but it's basically concrete.
Yeah.
But they mixed it with wood fibers.
Oh,
Is how they
interesting.
were
Well,
strengthening it.
I guess that would make it stronger until they decayed or whatever, probably. Or maybe they wouldn't inside. But the other thing is they put this other crushed up mineral inside it, so it actually repairs itself as it cracks or wears away.
That's crazy.
And we couldn't figure that out till this 2023. This year of 2023, it took us all that time.
The aliens showed them, but the aliens didn't show us, Nick. This is the only thing I
that
get
could
mad
be.
about. The aliens show people and they don't show us. This is messed up.
Did you hear? Man, we're getting way off on tangent here. But you know the burning of the Library of Alexandria, right?
Yeah.
That's where we lost most of the world's knowledge, and we had to start up from there.
This
go
is why
through
you
the
don't put
Dark
everything in one
Ages.
spot.
That's right. That's right. That's where the Antikythera mechanism, the world's first computer, come from?
Correct.
Like back in those times, they had stuff figured out, and we hit the reset switch. Sucks.
Well, yeah. Younger Dryas. That's why, Nick.
What's that?
Younger Dryas, man.
I don't know what that means.
Nick, if you have watched the YouTube videos I send you.
Please explain.
The Younger Dryas, they believe that there was a catastrophic event that occurred that reset the human species.
Yeah, I think that's probably likely, because that seems to be what's going on now. We got no idea how to do this, really.
Oh yeah, there's no. They believe that. I actually found, and again, I sent you a YouTube video like a week ago, like a few days ago, maybe. And it was after we talked about that Joe Rogan and what's his face, Hancock was on it.
Oh,
there's another guy and I can't remember his name, but they covered all this stuff.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that now.
Yeah,
would have been nice if I watched it before this.
Yeah, because it would have made all the sense in the world.
I know. I ain't got a lot of time for that, but I'm gonna make time.
Yeah, they talked about the Younger Dryas. They believe that there was major catastrophic events that has reset civilizations back multiple times. One of which, and I found it super interesting, you'll have to watch it, is they found where basically what happens is, you'll always have the, what do they call that? Erosion in rocks. And the way they figure out the years is they look at the erosion lines to determine the different. Well, what happens is if there's water that comes in, a lot of times it can move the different paths, but you can see because it'll have its own distinct coloration to it. No matter where in the world you go, there's at least one. I think they said more than one, but there's at least one, no matter where you go, that you can see that sediment line is what they call it. So they say there's been at least one major event that they believe killed off 95% of everything that was on the planet.
I wonder if that was when. Now, my memory is very vague about this because I learned about this in school a million years ago. But
Noah's
have
Ark,
you ever heard? No, the eruption of Krakatoa.
So what they think, well, at least what they speculated on the podcast, was that it was an astronomical. So we go through the, what's it called? The Kuiper Belt or the what do they call that? Yeah. We go through that every year.
Right.
And basically they said it's like Russian roulette. And I forget exactly how big of a piece of debris it has to be, but it would be a catastrophic event that would cause, apparently once there's impact because of the plates, it can cause volcanoes to erupt. It can cause all these different things to happen all at once.
Right, right.
But what they believe is when they see that sediment line and they found it no matter where you go, they believe that it was a major catastrophic water event, which again fits with the biblical Noah's Ark. They also talked about every tradition has a version of Noah's Ark, and they've all wrote about it. So that kind of plays into that concept.
Okay.
But they believe it stemmed from that when we went through that Kuiper Belt is what they believed.
Now, are they linking to lost technology with that time? Because the biblical flood would have been like way, way back.
5,000 years, 6,000 years.
Right. And so that would be before like all the technology they had. Well, no, how old are the pyramids?
What does the specialist say? Which goes back to our Dorothy Eady conversation, or
what
does Hancock say?
Tell us?
I don't know. But what the specialists there in Egypt say is that we're dealing with at least 10,000 years, I think.
Okay, all right.
But Hancock,
you know what? That lines up, I guess.
Yeah, Hancock believes that they're much older than that.
Yeah. Now, if anyone's listening and they're not sure who we're talking about, Dorothy Eady, you're going to want to check out my favorite episode of all time. That was one of Bert's. Like I was blown away by this. This was the SETI episode.
SETI.
Yeah, I can't.
Correct.
I've never had a more fun time doing an episode than that one.
Which we're sorry, that was a 2-parter. We loved it though.
Well, get used to it. We're the 2-parter guys now. I can already tell this is going to be a 2-parter, and we're just about halfway through now.
We're not even half. We're 1/3.
Not even half. Yeah, we're 1/3 of the way through. This might be a 40-parter. Who knows? But definitely go back and check out the SETI one. It's a 2-parter worth sitting through. You're gonna like that.
There's a lot of things that's interesting. If you're into Egyptian stuff, that's definitely the one to check out. But that's the thing. When you go back and you look, the other thing that they talked about is a lot of the what is it, Mount Ararat, I think is what they're talking about. There's seashells at the top of that mountain, which is physically impossible.
Now, I have heard theories, and I'm not saying I necessarily support these theories or not, but there's been claims for quite some while that certain mountains that have, fish fossils on them or shells and stuff like that at the top. And they say that when the plates collide or slide against each other that form the mountains, there's parts that were originally underwater that could go up, and that's why you find them sometimes. What are your thoughts on that?
No one knows. That's what my thoughts are. I mean, as much as I would love to say,
that's a reasonable answer.
Yeah, it's listen, I don't care who the specialist is that talks about this, no one has a clue. It sounds good on paper. It's like the people that go, well, I read the Bible and the Bible says yes, but that's still a theory. That's what we have. You have to have faith. No matter what you look at, it's a faith, right? You either have faith in a book that was wrote potentially by the God of all time, or you believe the Torah, or you believe Hinduism, or you believe science. All of them are speculations.
Every bit of them could be partially right. The percentage that they're right, we don't know. But this is why it's so excellent to talk to you on these topics, because you're not afraid to say you don't know. You're not one of those guys who says, this is what I was told, so therefore it is fact, and I'm not going to discuss it. Like,
it's because we find out on all sides how many times we're wrong. It's funny because, occasionally I'll have biblical conversations with people and they tell me what the Bible says. And I go, do you really believe that? Because, we can go back and we can look at that. And it's surprising the people that just get mad and they go, well, that's what my church told me. Well,
yeah. And that's the type that you can't have these conversations with.
For sure. Yeah, no. And that's why I'm very open. No one knows how any of this stuff happens. It's a fun conversation. Now, if I've got something that leans me in a certain direction, I can go, there's this, and this. Have you ever thought of that? But heck, at the end of the day, we're only as good as the information we have. I do think regardless of what the true answer is, I find it interesting that there is a story in the Bible of Noah's Ark. I find it interesting that they find these seashells at the top of these mountains.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that they find the settlement layer, no matter where you go in the world, which says there was a catastrophic event. Now, whether they correlate or not, you can't tell me that there wasn't some type of event.
Right. And I'm with you.
That's what I find interesting.
I'm 100%.
That's exactly,
with you on that.
That's the thing that I find the most interesting.
So pulling this back to our story tonight, I really kind of am believing that whatever happened at this island is from the far distant past. Let's say before this event. What do you think the possibilities of that are?
100%.
Yeah, I think it's pretty high too. Although there's not a lot of people with us on that, though. Like, more people are thinking.
Those people that believe that, those that think that we could do it now, then prove us wrong and do it.
Yeah.
If it's that easy, then show us. Don't draw a diagram. You don't even have to do it. You don't even have to do it as far down. Do it half the distance, but do it with the same precision.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it will probably cost you less than building a house in Nova Scotia nowadays. So,
yeah, for sure. It's like the people that says, well, I know how they built pyramids. Then do it. Show me how they did it.
Yeah. Build
with the same precision.
If it was so easy to build a pyramid, you cannot convince me. This is one thing I'm firm on. You cannot convince me there wouldn't be a Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk pyramid right now.
Correct.
If it was so easy to do, there would be pyramids twice the size.
Well, and
I'm only partially joking about that.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, we have no clue any of the things that truly occurred. It's like, everything, there's a reference to how it could potentially happen, right? Like we say, well, how did the dinosaurs die off? There's a theory that there was more oxygen at one point in time because dinosaurs couldn't live in today's society. In today's world, they wouldn't be able to breathe. It'd be impossible, which tells me
they were saying less gravity too, for some reason, which what caused things to be bigger at that time.
Which completely possible. But then I look at things like giraffes and elephants and I go, wouldn't they have a tough time too?
Well, depends. I mean,
they say
giraffes and elephants aren't the size of most large dinosaurs, so like a brontosaurus.
Well, true. But like you look at a T-Rex, they say that based on the T-Rex's body, it would not be a carnivore now. They believe that it was not a carnivore that would kill other dinosaurs.
Oh, I heard that. Yeah.
They believe it's a scavenger.
Like
a vulture. It would wait for
something.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting.
So it's like, even though it's great and we got these hypotheses and theories, heck, we don't know. None of us know. It's a fun speculation. That's how I look at everything. It's fun. It doesn't mean that it's not biblical. It doesn't mean that it is biblical. I use biblical reference a lot because we keep finding out more and more of the Bible is true. And I go, there's something to it. I'm not saying that everything between cover A to cover B is true for everyone. But for me, everything that everyone said is impossible, they start going, well, wait a second. It's like that Russian, it's still somewhat on topic. That Russian scientist that found that bacterium, 7 years ago? I'm sure you've heard of that. He found that bacterium in wherever it was. And they was curious what it would do because they was scared because they found it. It was in a frozen part of, I think it was Antarctica, I think.
It was Antarctica.
So he's injecting it in mice to figure out if it, it was a potential threat to us. Well, heck, the mice was living longer.
Oh, that's interesting. And they're like, I didn't know that part.
They're like, well, what's going on? Like, what's causing this to occur? Well, because it's Russia. He injects himself with it.
Oh.
This was 5 years ago. But you know what's interesting? He hasn't been sick and he hasn't had a cold in 5 years.
Interesting.
On top of that, all the rats that was injected with this bacteria became fertile when they were beyond the years of being fertile. And an interesting thing that, again, they tie it back to biblical. They think that maybe that's how people live to be 500, 600, 700, 800 years.
Interesting.
It wasn't anything other than a bacterium.
If that guy lives to be really old, that would be quite a discovery.
We'll all be dead by the time we figure that out, Nick.
Unless we find some bacteria.
We need to find some bacteria.
Yeah, it's got to be somewhere around here somewhere.
They found it in Antarctica. We need to go to Antarctica, Nick. Get us a drill.
No problem. I'm used to the cold by now. Let's go.
Well, do you want to dig into the next section, Nick? See what's happening?
I think we better before we turn this into a 3-parter.
We better get moving, Nick.
Some time passes, but Oak Island is still the top of many people's minds. In 1845, a new company is formed, the Truro Company, including Anthony Vaughan, Dr. David Barnes-Linz, John Gamel, Adams Tupper, and Robert Creelman. The Truro Company begins operations on the main shaft and reach 86 feet. Unfortunately, the very next day the seawater has returned. All attempts at bailing are fruitless in an effort to see what the purpose of the wood, coconut husk, charcoal, and clay layers are. The company brings in an auger to drill core samples in the areas around the shaft. Unfortunately, the experiment raises more questions than it answers. The first core sample reveals that the layers extend out quite far from the original pit. In fact, no matter how far they drill from the shaft, they seem to continue to hit wood platforms, putty layers, charcoal layers, and massive amounts of coconut fiber. They break one of 2 drills on the first hole. The second hole hits an empty cavity at 98 feet, bringing up pieces of a gold chain, bits of unknown metal, then returns to platform once again at the bottom. The third hole, also at 98 feet, also hits a cavity, reaches the side of an oak cask, retrieving nothing, and hitting platforms again shortly after. The fourth hole only hits platforms as elsewhere, no cavity and not metal bits. On the fifth hole, the drill operator, James Pitbaldo, noticed something on the drill when he brought the sample to the surface. John Gamel saw James Pitbaldo grab the item, wash it off, and then quickly put it in his pocket. When Gamel questioned him, Pitbaldo said he would bring it up in the directors' meeting that night. Pitbaldo disappeared that evening. He was later found to be living in Cape Breton and had secretly begun a lawsuit to challenge for ownership of Oak Island and take it away from the Truro Company. Before the court date, however, Pitbaldo died in a mine accident. What he had found that caused such a dramatic series of actions was never discovered.
'Cause he was a scallywag, Nick.
He sure was, but whatever it was caused him to uproot his life and his family, move to the other end of the province, and file a lawsuit immediately to try and take over ownership of the island. What do you think could have come up that would cause such a violent reaction from this man? It's hard to fathom.
That's really hard to fathom because it's like, I mean, I can't think of a lot of things that would cause that
Well, if it was just
or
a
cause
little
you
bit
to want to do that.
like if it's just a little bit of treasure, like it would probably be worthwhile to just keep going with your current crew
Right.
and get to the bottom of it.
The only thing that I could think that would be feasible,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess this somewhat goes back, is if you found something that changes everyone's thought process on something.
Right. Changes the whole narrative of what you think you're looking at,
Right.
and something that you don't want to share. You want it to be entirely your own.
Correct.
But what could come up that on its
There's
own
only
could
There's
do
really
that?
only 3 things typically.
What's that?
I think the biggest one is religion, organized religion in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the theories behind Mars and why they say we have not truly inspected Mars. So religion is one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is anything that would change the concepts that we have around any type of thing that has to do with the formation of our planet. So
Okay.
let's use, for example, if they dug and dug and dug and found a piece of UFO technology,
Right.
that changes our entire concept, right?
I'm not convinced he would know what he was looking at in that case, maybe.
Well, I don't know about that, Nick.
I'll never know. What's the third one?
The third one, which is kind of a combination, is if it's something that would have to do with you or your people in general. So
Mm,
by that, if which I hear, I don't know how it would apply, but let's use, for example, if it was here in the States, right?
right.
And I dug up something that made me or my people look bad, I might want to try to hide that and prevent that from getting out.
Right. So
Human-
maybe we're Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say human nature typically wants to hide three things. Organized religion or religion in general is probably the biggest one because they believe that if you basically can prove that none of this religious stuff is true, it'll destroy the entire infrastructure as humans, period. Even only half of the public truly says that they're religious, it would completely flip everyone on a dime.
Right.
That's why they say they've hidden so many UFO things, because that's anti-biblical, which I don't think is true. I think that it could still be biblical, but
right.
I get where they're coming from.
Let me put up that maybe it could challenge just the sect that particular person belongs to religiously. Something that
for sure
definitively proves one of the others is the true religion. That might be something. Instead of like all religion is bad, it's just like, no, your particular one sucks.
Correct. Yeah. Basically, they're scared. Like there's this theory, and I've not looked into it too deep, but apparently there was things found on the face of Mars that we didn't find. Apparently, China found it. We found out that about it from China.
They were going there. Or
yeah, they found pyramids there apparently, or
really,
or what do they call those? Doesn't matter. Is the same equivalent as like our pyramids we have there here? Right. They found there.
Interesting.
But what they said was some of the things that they found also gives the impression that there is structures similar to like our Sphinx, kind of.
Okay.
So what they said is organized religion in general, if that got out, they'd say, well, the Bible clearly can't be true, or the Torah can clearly not be true because God created everything at one time.
Right.
Now, to say that God, from a religious standpoint, he only created earth and people and our religion, and he didn't do anything else. That just seems foolish to me. So even if they did find something on Mars, I wouldn't be like, well, clearly my doctrine's incorrect. You know what I'm saying? Like they could have a completely different doctrine.
Yeah. I mean, like if we were to, and I feel we have, but if there was a definitive, unarguable way to prove that the earth was over 6,000 years old, that would challenge a huge portion of religious folks. That would shake their whole foundation. But for 90% of the others, it really wouldn't matter that much.
I think that it's impossible to know for sure, if that makes sense. And the Bible typically speaks metaphorically also, so we don't even know if when it said earth was created in 7 days or 6 days and he rested on the seventh. Is that truly, because sometimes when they talk, it's metaphorically.
Well, if that information was to come directly from God, days wouldn't have even existed back then. So what kind of frame of reference is that? But
no differently than when you no, but it's always interesting when you look at time frames, right? Because again, if we're talking this stuff was found in the 1700s,
right?
Clearly using technology that we don't have today. Like you're not creating this. If he would have found something that provided the avenue to create these things, that would shake up some organized religion, you know, because, you know, like Bob Lazar, he said he found some of those UFOs in, I think he said in Antarctica or something. They found one, he thought. So it's like, who's to say that there's not another one? You talk about, well, how would he know what he found? It's no different than Roswell. There was a piece of metal that could be folded.
Right.
Supposedly. You couldn't catch it on fire. It couldn't melt. They knew they was looking at a form of metal, but they had no clue what that metal was. If you found something in a drill and you bring it up and it's a very unusual piece of looking metal, you do a couple of tests and you go, this doesn't make sense. Why is this in a hole?
True.
That's why you might do something like that.
So do we think, or so I hadn't really considered this, and you brought up an interesting point. Do you
Mhm.
think that his purpose in the lawsuit was maybe to prevent further digging then?
That's what I would guess.
See, my whole thought was it was like greed and he wanted something for himself, but then that sort of goes against my other thought of with all these resources, you're going to be much closer to getting at it than if you try to go at it on your own.
Correct. Not only that, but
Interesting.
he died shortly after.
Yeah. And this guy wasn't one of the partners, by the way. He was a
Sure,
drill operator.
sure.
So
He
he's
wouldn't
not
have a
gonna
claim to it anyway.
right. He was trying to work up some kind of ownership claim, but
But
he wouldn't
but
have
think
had the
about this.
resources to continue on his own.
Yeah, but even if he did, they're not going to give him the land.
Right. There
But
was
just
the
as importantly, he died shortly after.
mhm, that's right. Yep. He was petitioning the government to take the land from, I think it was either the Truro Company or the Truro Syndicate at this stage, because that company changes names depending on who's running it from time
See,
to
for me,
time.
it's he died shortly after. That
Yeah.
tells me everything I need to know.
Someone didn't want this to happen.
Think think about every single event. He found
Yeah.
something he wasn't supposed to find.
Right.
100%.
Yeah. I just wish we knew what it was because this is such a drastic reaction.
But that is why
Hmm.
he's dead.
Yeah, I think
Think
so.
about every single event. Marilyn Monroe,
Hmm.
JFK
Yep.
is a government thing. He was
Yeah.
killed off.
Which, by the way, I think I just mentioned this, but he was petitioning the government, not other
Yeah,
venues. So
for sure.
that does follow that.
It's human nature. He
Yeah.
found something he probably wasn't supposed to find. In typical fashion, he showed it to someone else. Someone told someone else. The
Hmm.
government finds out. Dead city. It's the whole Marilyn Monroe JFK thing. It all like this has happened so many times. Probably the best
Hmm.
case of all of this is Marilyn Monroe and JFK for sure. It's the same concept.
So let's presume, and I actually do think this now. You've convinced me on this that he was
Mhm.
petitioning the government to stop excavation, to stop the digging because he didn't want something he found to come out. In this case, the government is kind of the good guys if they had him taken care of because this enabled the digging to continue. They want something to come to light. Does my logic flow there or am I just out in the
Yes and no.
wilds?
Yes and no. Here's what I think they did. Something
Hmm.
came out. He petitions the government. Government goes, well, why are you petitioning? Well, I'm not really wanting to say, well, we're not going to help you unless we know what it is. This is what I found.
Hmm.
Well, we're going to send someone over and we're just going to take a little look. He dies.
Right.
Big shocker. Next thing you know, they look and they go, we found this one small thing, this one guy that's drilling. How long have they been doing this for?
Mm.
How close have they gotten? We could step in and do all of this, but we don't even know how to do this.
Right.
Why don't we let them do the hard work? And once they get too close, then we'll step in.
So if they had found further things along this lines, maybe more people would have. Oh, I almost swore. Through the course of this, 6 people have died under unusual circumstances around this pit. Now, these were all deaths that could have, well, no one was around mostly when they happened, but
Mhm.
there was noxious gases that had never been in these holes before, killed 4 people at once, and explosions killed the other 2. Now, maybe I'm getting way too conspiracy theory here, but what if these were on the heels of people discovering things and they've got someone amongst them keeping an eye on them.
I would think about it. All these years, Jess and I was just talking about this the other day.
Mm-hmm.
There was there was that idiot governor that was hooking up with that lady, that Chinese spy.
Oh,
was given all the piece information. You know, other places have been doing this. That's just normal playbook. This is just there's always an enemy amidst the pack.
right. You can't get that many people together and not have some elements you don't know.
This is why Nick and I are a 2-man crew. There won't be
That's
no
right.
third mans because we can't trust the third mans.
We can't trust them.
Nick representing Canada. I'm representing the United States of America.
We're a United Nations of 2.
Exactly.
Except for all the other nations.
Valid.
Oh, man, I don't know how you do it, but sometimes you get me on these conspiracy tracks because I'm not a wild conspiracy theorist, I promise, but sometimes you bring up these things that I'm like, man, are all these people dying when they find something that will radically change the course of history?
I mean, think about it. The U.S., I think the reason that most of the people here in the U.S. go to them is because our government body has been killing people off forever. I mean, the whole Marilyn Monroe, JFK thing, you think that was all just a coincidence? No. The theory is JFK told Marilyn Monroe about the aliens, and then she just miraculously dies. And then JFK took a completely different route the day he was shot. How would the assassin even know what route he was going to be on?
Yeah, someone had to know.
It's impossible. Yeah, they switched it last minute. What a coincidence. He was just setting up in this building, and there was 3 shooters. No one can argue the fact now that there wasn't at least 3 shooters. Right. So all 3 of these people telepathically was like, you know what? I bet if we go to this road and we set up in all these different places, the president will come through there. There ain't no way. No one. Listen, I don't care how lucky you are.
That doesn't make
sense. Go
to
Vegas if those are your odds. Doesn't make any sense.
Really.
And then literally the day our boy Oswald was going to talk, he's killed. Come on, man.
Now, was he actually one of the shooters, or was he just a patsy?
What do I think?
Yeah, because I've heard this before.
I think he was one of 3 shooters. I believe the theory that there was 3 shooters. One on the grassy knoll, him, and I believe that he didn't know about the rest of them. But the magic bullet's been proven wrong multiple times at this point.
Right. So bringing back to our story, there is one thing I noticed, which I didn't think of anything of at the time, but there's like many companies that keep gathering money, working on the island, collapsing over and over again. And I noticed that I see a few names float between each company as it goes along. So now I'm wondering, is there a couple guys that even though they lost their life savings in this company, lost their life savings in this company, lost their life savings in this company, they're able to keep reinvesting and joining these other companies? Or are
I'm sure they've had
plants?
Investments.
Are they the plants?
I'm sure they had investments. Sure, they're honorable people to all the governments out there that just received investments from silent partners, I'm sure.
Interesting. I'm going to look further into this, what names floated amongst them. And if they were
for the record, governments, Bert is not.
I am going to. You can't get me. I'm just kidding. Don't send me owls.
Bert is not going to check into this, and everything that I said is pure speculation based on conspiracy theories, and everyone knows those people are crazy.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, okay. Well, now I'm a conspiracy nut. Thanks a lot. You know what? Maybe the moon isn't real. Just kidding. I am not saying that.
Oh, we
for
know
real.
it's not. We know it's not, Nick.
Oh,
It's fine.
Hashtag Earth moon is real.
Until we do the episode on it.
Yeah. Oh God. I'm just gonna mute myself for the whole thing because I'll be cursing like a banshee.
It's crazy. You want to move on to the next part, Nick?
Yeah, let's hit the next bit.
Listen, the complaint department is closed. You cannot complain about it being a two-parter. Technically, you can. This is Nick's fault. This has nothing to do with Bert this time.
So sorry. I apologize especially to your family, who I think particularly does not like two-parters.
Listen, typically I get blamed for this, so it's kind of nice for once to not be the cause of this kind of problem. But the most important part of part one, I'm going to tell you because we've obviously recorded part two already. We do it all one shot. Nick and I discovered at the end of this everything that you need to know about Oak Island. And that's all I'm going to say.
You will not believe what comes next. Clickbait.
I will say, at the end of this, I did ask Nick what his original hypothesis was, and at the end, what his hypothesis was. And they are two completely different things. And I think we're both unanimous in what it is.
Yep,
so
we certainly are.
If you think you know what it is based on the segments you've heard, there's going to be a point in time where you change, in my opinion, your idea based on. Listen, when people complain about us going left to center, you don't know what you're talking about. That's how we came to this hypothesis.
Yeah. Yep. We're moving center.
We really are. So obviously, make sure that you check in next week, because next week is going to be a humdinger. Also, it's almost Christmas time. You want to make sure you're on our good list. And the way you do that is by rating our podcast. I know I said that at the very beginning of the podcast, but if you've not done it yet, now is the beautiful time to do it. I know you couldn't leave at the beginning of the podcast to do it, but now you can do it.
Yeah, do it.
See, that's what Nick said. Until we see you on the next podcast, goodbye.
See you later.